everything. So reactivity, social, but then since reactivity, since the surgery, not wanting to bring her back to daycare.
So I'm gonna bring her back. I think she'll be fine. Obviously, they have to do like yeah, they have to like reintegrate her and make sure that she's okay.
Sure.
But most issues, if not all, are on leash.
Yep.
And when it's territorial, like in our building. And then other issues are she used to be like off leash at the park here all the time, but then started resource guarding and getting aggressive
With
balls or anything,
Gotcha.
sticks.
Sure.
So that's another thing.
Sure.
But yeah, she's 3 now, about.
Okay.
And I would say most of the things have started like over the past year. Banksy, leave it.
Have gotten just like progressively escalated?
Yeah.
Gotcha. How long has she been resource guarding for?
Probably a year and a half.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it's more of a recent thing. It wasn't like always that she did that.
It wasn't always, but I got her when she was around 5 months. And it probably started maybe around a year, but like not aggressively. And I just didn't know that that's what was going on. And then I guess I just hit her threshold one day and she just started getting a little bit more aggressive. But it's not food. It's not like her meals. It's just like high value items or toys.
Sure. Has she had any scuffles or flare-ups with because of the resource guarding with the dog?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did it were you able to break them apart? Did she was there any bites
I'll usually get her away. The one incident that is probably the worst was she went under a playground and she had a ball that she needed, but then kids were coming and so I needed to get her. So I just grabbed her and she bit my leg.
Ooh. Yeah.
I knew it was coming, but I had to just
do something.
Yeah.
Sure. Was it a bad redirect or was it bruised?
I still have a scar. It's like a year and a half. It started March of last year, right before COVID.
Okay. Did she was there punctures or was it just
Yeah.
Okay, so it was a full on. Okay.
Yeah.
So she's under the playground, there's a ball she's trying to get. You go to remove her.
Yeah.
And then it's just an immediate turnaround, or was there frustration in the beginning and then
there was frustration. I knew she was giving me all the warning signs and everything.
Gotcha.
But then she just was biting up at my legs and got my thigh.
Sure. Okay. And since then, any other instances like that?
So the other, not with the resource guarding, because I just don't bring her. I
Sure.
just don't let her off leash anymore at the park. And there's no toys at the daycare that she went to. But in the building, if she sees or even just sniffs a dog, one of the few that she hates, she started to redirect it towards me a bit, and she bruised my leg once and has tried biting at me a second time.
Okay, sure. And you walk around the harness, I'm assuming here? Okay.
Yeah, I've done the
prong?
Yeah.
And how did that work out?
She walks fine, but she'll still go at the dogs, and then it's just I don't want her pulling through it too much. It doesn't really keep her from when she sees one of the ones she hates.
Sure. It doesn't
really
tame her down or something.
Yeah.
Sure.
She's I can't even get through to her at that point.
Okay. And what are your goals? What are you wanting to achieve here with Banksy?
To be able to, with any dog on the sidewalk, be able to just ignore it and then make her sit and not freak out when there's one of the dogs that she can't stand in my building. We are moving out soon. There's a dog it's a 3-flat, the new place. There's a dog on each level. She met one of them the other day and was fine. It was weird though, because they were coming towards us. She was barking and barking and barking, and I got her to sit and calm down. And then I realized that I saw them walk into the new place, and I was like, oh shit. So I got her to calm down, we walked up, and suddenly she's kissing this dog and loves this dog. It was very strange.
Sure.
She just completely turned for the better. And then they played and got along. But she hasn't met the other one yet.
Gotcha.
So I'm just nervous. I just want to make sure that she is able to control her. It's mostly fear, you can tell. She's just scared.
And what's that look like?
She just freezes and she won't move.
Okay.
And she's just she's in general, she's scared of a lot of things.
Okay.
So I think that's more of it, and it seems like it's an anxiety thing more than...
What is she scared of? Outside of...
when they're cleaning in the hallways.
Okay.
Whenever I have a box and I'm opening a package.
Sure.
She's really scared of that. like anything unless it's a treat. If I'm like opening a bag, like she just gets easily startled.
Okay. And what happens? Does she get jumpy? Does she start barking?
No, she'll run away. She'll hide in the bathroom.
Okay, yeah, so that's more of a flight mode, yeah, for sure. Okay.
And I think when she's on the leash, like she would go away, but she just doesn't feel like she has anywhere to go.
She doesn't have any space to. Yeah, the freezing, so a fear-based dog, more often than not, is gonna try to run off. Yeah. Okay, even if they can't get away, or like they'll like start barking and lunging forward, and then if the dog moves in, they'll move away from them. So the freezing up sounds more like a stalking thing.
Yeah, that also sounds cruel.
Yeah, so whether or not that's fear-based, I'm not too sure. But definitely a level of reactivity. Yeah. Because reactivity is a scale, 1 to 10, if you will, of behaviors, with lunging and barking being like the top of the behavior. Okay. What are your goals here with Banksy?
I want her to be calm and not cause any issues for other. I don't want her to hurt anyone or hurt. I just want to protect her. So whatever that means, I don't know.
Okay.
Be able to walk and like have a calm, relaxing walk, and her not get worked up. And
okay. If you could have what you wanted with Banksy, like what would your life look like?
I used to be able to take her to like sit at coffee shops, and like she wouldn't just freak out every time a dog walked by, and I'd be able to take her onto the park. Sorry, I'm just like thinking.
No, it's okay. I'm just looking here because every time she looks at something, I'm trying to get a gauge on her.
Yeah. I would like her to be able to just be off leash in those situations and not be worried that she would hurt anyone.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, she's my little companion, so I just would want to bring her with me wherever I go and not.
Sure. Are you big on like hiking and stuff, or is it like, you walk around the city, you go to the park, and you go to restaurants?
It's mostly that, but I'm getting a car hopefully this summer, so I plan to hopefully be able to hike more.
Okay, like do like little road trips or something like that. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to get a feel for what your life is going to look like, because that kind of determines what I would recommend for you, or what I would estimate the time frame and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because obedience and behavior are very different. Obedience, I've been doing this for so long, I know how long it takes to teach a behavior, pending the owner is doing their homework.
Yeah.
Behavior is a little bit different, because behavior is a variable. So if I have a dog that's human aggressive, there's no guarantee that I can make them like humans.
Right.
I have exercises and things that we do to do so, but may not happen, right? So it's like a variable. And how long it takes me to get there is unknown. Some dogs are a quick turnaround, other dogs could take months, okay? So with the stuff that you're dealing with here, it sounds, I'm trying to remember, because she's 3 now, about a year and a half in, she started to show, well, she's always done resource guarding, but then one day it kind of just escalated, right? Is typically when we start to see behavioral issues, 6 months in a year is when we start to see the shift, because they're very pivotal psychological changes for dogs. So at 6 months, they kind of become a teenager brain, or I call it the terrible twos brain, teenager body. And then at 1 year, it's a teenager brain, adult body. And then at 2 years, you have adult dog, kind of, okay? So typically, whenever I have issues with dogs and stuff with my clients, they're telling me it's around that kind of, those points. Not to say that it can't happen anywhere else, but that's like the most common, okay? So like.
Leave it. Good girl.
Oh, the dog. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
So, and then with the training you've done yourself, has it been like all positive reinforcement, or?
Yeah, I mean, the prong collar was the only thing that was not positive reinforcement.
Sure.
So I've been trying to keep it mostly that way, but I don't really know what to do. I just don't want it to escalate.
Sure. And with the positive reinforcement, is this just stuff that you've studied, or is this like you worked with somebody to help you?
I've worked with trainers on and off. I have a good friend who's a trainer in New York, and have phone calls with her, and
sure.
She gives me advice.
Okay. So positive reinforcement is great for puppies. It's great for under 6 months, basic foundational stuff, basic kindergarten type stuff. It's good for stuff you want to see again. So like if you say sit and she sits, you would feed that and go, good girl, because you're telling her, yes, when I say sit, do this, right? But what happens is when you go outside, there's going to be more stimuli. There's going to be things that are more rewarding than what's in your hand. And if what she's doing is more fun or more fulfilling, she's going to opt for that instead of what's in your hand, okay? Now I know there's stuff like counter conditioning, or like if the dog looks at another dog and they don't, you give them a treat to create a positive association so the dog starts to see dogs mean good things, right? But the problem is like threshold stuff, right? They'll say like keep the dog below threshold, and when you're in
she's actually been doing really well with that. When I'm able to get far enough away, she's been doing great the past week or so.
Sure.
But on the way here, like we got in a few situations where it's like already like way above and I can't do anything about it.
Exactly, and that's where it falls short, is it's not realistic.
Yeah.
Also, if she does become reactive, you have nothing to tell her not to do that. Okay, so there's 4 quadrants in training. Are you familiar with them? So positive reinforcement is like the most common one, right? And positive and negative mean add and subtract.
Yeah.
So positive reinforcement, add something good.
Yeah.
Positive punishment, add something bad. Negative reinforcement, remove something good. Negative punishment, remove something bad. Okay, so I guess you could call me a positive punishment, negative punishment trainer. Okay, so the reason why aversives are good or healthy, in my opinion, is because that's how dogs actually learn. Dogs don't give each other treats for good behavior.
Yeah.
They just correct behavior they don't want, right? So if she's playing and she's having a good time with her dog friends at daycare, and then like maybe she happens to find the ball somehow, and they come near her, she's gonna become defensive and aggressive to say, back off my ball.
Right.
She's not gonna stop there and say like, hey guys, this is my ball, I found it first, give me some space, right? She's just gonna nip and bite at them to tell them, hey, back off when you see me with this object, right? Give me space. So, and you might see it at a park where the dogs are playing, a dog plays too rough and they snap at each other, right? And they're correcting and saying, hey, that was too hard. Okay, so dogs don't give each other treats, they don't give each other CBD, they don't console each other, they don't sit each other down and say, hey, this is the rules of the dog park, we don't mount around here, we don't bark at each other, we don't bark at the fence, we don't charge the fence, right? They don't do that. Simply when a dog gets out of line, regardless if they know each other or not, they just correct each other, right? So dogs self-regulate, whereas for humans, we look outside, right? So if we see something, instead of intervening ourselves, we would call the police, and the police would come and handle that, right? So here, with the e-collar or the prong collar, so a prong collar was designed to mimic a dog bite. That's why it looks the way it does. However, if it's not being proactively applied, it's not going to do much. So if she's pulling and you're just holding her, there's nothing telling her not to pull, so to speak. There has to be more involved in order to teach her, this is what you do, this is what you don't do, okay? So same thing if she became reactive, you would use the prong collar in a quick snapping motion to create a bite, to correct her and tell her, hey, when you do this, it's not allowed, and there's gonna be a correction, okay? Typically when people use prong collars, they're either misfit or they're expecting the prong collar to kind of alleviate the issue on its own, when really it's meant to be proactively applied, okay? So like no pull harnesses. No pull harnesses will say like, hey, fixes leash pulling or like cures leash pulling or whatever, and it's a lie. It doesn't do that. All it does is deter the dog's pulling power or defer it to the side, because that's where her power is, it's in her chest. So she goes like this, right? And when we have a front clip harness, what happens is it just diverts that power to the side. And I've seen dogs like on their hind legs pulling so hard that it's causing them to stand up.
Banksy, leave it. Yes.
It just diverts the pulling power to the side so that they don't have as much leverage over you, right? So the other thing is harnesses escalate or promote reactivity. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So with the prong, was your concern is if she pulls too much, she's gonna like tear up her neck or something?
Yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. All right. And was it like a Herm Sprenger collar, or was it like a collar at PetSmart?
I think that.
Herm Sprenger?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's a really good brand.
Yeah.
It's what all the professionals use. Can it happen? Yes, but typically it happens because people will tie their dogs out on a prong collar, and the dogs are constantly pulling. But I've seen it catch a dog where it might pinch, but never actually fully puncture. Okay.
They never then start associating the trigger with pain, will they?
So dogs don't really think that.
Okay.
So that's a really common concept, where the owner will say well, if I correct the dog when they look at a dog, won't that make them not like the dog? I go, no. I was like, because they already don't like dogs, so to speak, right? So here, this is where repetition comes into play. So if Banksy is lunging and barking at a dog and I were to correct her, to tell her that behavior is not allowed. You might see her become uneasy in the beginning because she has to differentiate why did that happen. And that's why repetition is key. So we would either keep walking past the dog or have the dog keep walking past us to teach her it's not the dog. It's when you blow up that this negative happens. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If anything, this is actually what makes dogs not like dogs. So typically when people put harnesses on their dogs, especially puppies, because they don't want to put pressure on the trachea, is they'll have a friendly puppy, they'll put them on a harness. They're walking their puppy sees another dog. They're very friendly, right? So they want to go say hi. So the owner pulls back on their puppy to keep them under control so that the puppy doesn't annoy the dog, right? And then what happens is we create frustration because every time the puppy sees a dog, they're being pulled back. And every time the dog disappears, the owner lets them go, right? And eventually it becomes frustration to agitation to aggression because it happens over the course of the first year of their life. And this is super common when I talk to people where they'll say like, oh yeah, I walked my puppy on a harness the first year of its life or their life. And then gradually the dog became more and more aggressive. And I'm like, it's because of the frustration that's involved with the harness. Because with the harness, it's enough to pull the dog, but they're still engaged. With the prong collar, if you keep pulling it, depending on the dog, you can disengage the brain. And once they disengage, you just keep going. So the pressure alleviates at some point, okay? And it's not to say that, if misused, like the whole negative association, like I could see that happening.
Yeah.
But it happens regardless of the tool you're using. It's just that prong collar doesn't cause opposition reflex, which is when they feel pressure, they want to go against it, whereas harness does. And that's what causes more frustration, is she's pulling to get to what she wants and she can't, and it makes her want to pull even harder, okay? So, questions about any of that stuff?
I guess, how am I, without having a dog to, desensitize her to, how do I, train that?
So the first thing we teach is heel. Okay, so when we have reactivity, dog reactivity, when we have dog reactivity, the first thing I always teach is the heel command, okay, which is how to walk. So, right now, you see how she's all over the place and kind of just wandering and stuff?
Yeah.
When really she should just be laying at your feet relaxing.
Banksy, heel.
Okay?
You've been working on it.
So here, when you come to a stop, right now, because this part of this is overstimulation. You see her tail?
Yeah.
You see how it's kind of straight and up?
Yeah.
Right? And, there's stuff going on here, but really she should be just settled.
Yeah.
But she keeps sniffing the ground, chewing on sticks, going over here, going over there, doing little zoomy stuff, right? And all of that stuff is actually part of the problem. So we look at it and we think it's cute or we think it's funny or whatever, but it's the brain's inability to just relax, okay, in this kind of context. There it is. So going to pull her back. Now you're gonna pull straight up, 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 right? Now go ahead and choke up higher on your leash. There you go, then relax. Good, and you're gonna shorten your leash there. Good, okay. So here, up de-escalates, back escalates.
Oh,
Okay, so with the harness, you have to do a little bit more work because it's on her chest, so you have to kind of lift the body up a bit. But right there, as I was talking, right, I'm like, the overstimulation of constantly just being like this, and all of a sudden you add in a stimuli like a dog, boom, the brain shoots up, okay? So here, with the healing concept, is it helps us calm the dog down, okay? It helps us de-escalate the dog. So even right here, okay? See how she keeps looking? So what I'm gonna have you do is every time Banksy gets up, you're just gonna automatically pull up on your leash, straight up and then relax, okay?
In that situation when she was at 100 and I pull up, do you think that she would then try to bite me because I'm kind of really close to her? I guess that's also my fears when I'm that close. She's gonna turn around.
Sure. So what you can do is what we call the up and away, okay? Up and away is in case we get the redirection, okay? So here, up de-escalates the brain, away prevents her from getting to me. Okay, so up on your leash, up, and then relax. Okay, because what happens is people tend to wait for the blow up to happen before they try to establish control. And what we're doing is we're putting in control prior to the blow up. Okay, that's always the most ideal way to approach things, is prevention. Okay, so where we don't even see the blow up, because if we don't see the blow up, then we don't see or we don't get redirection, okay? So here, up, and then you're gonna keep up, and then relax.
Good girl.
Good.
Can I give her treats when she does?
That's fine. So with the e-collar, up, and then relax, good. So I'm assuming you did research on how we train and stuff.
Yeah.
So we use prong and e-collar, okay? Prong is a great tool, but it takes a lot of technical skill. And plus, when you take the leash off, you no longer have control because she's not on the leash. So you have no physical leverage there.
Yeah.
With the e-collar, everything's at the press of a button, okay? So people typically think when we do e-collar, I show up, we let the dog kind of blow up, and then we correct them. No, up and relax, good. First thing I do is always teach the dog how to walk correctly, okay? So if you were to take 5 steps, she would take 5 steps. You were to take 3 steps, she takes 3 steps. When you stop, she automatically sits. This is with a completely slack leash. Up. Good. With a completely slack leash, okay? I don't care what the environment is. I don't care if there's dogs. I don't care if there's people. I don't care if there's kids walking around and stuff. Her job, up, yep, is to stay at your side. So then we start to work on reactivity. So I had a case, she's in Lakeview, dog reactive, was reacting to people, bikes, dogs, everything, right? And we did 1 class on the heel, only 1 reactive moment. Okay, in the second week, in the entire week, and she saw lots of dogs, only 1 reactive moment, okay? And one of them was because a dog came around the corner randomly, and the second one was similar, but the dog was like lunging and barking or excited, so the dog was reacting to the energy, but otherwise like 99% of the reactivity was gone. Now, it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
Now here.
Good.
But we see some kind of progress, okay? So you might say like, hey, Jessie, like 40% of her reactivity is gone, right? I go, great, where are you struggling? And then you would, fill me in, and then we make adjustments, okay? So the first thing we always teach is the heel, and see what do we fix with the heel. Come back class 2, we review stuff, you let me know how it's going. Okay, now we're gonna work on the second half of heel, we're gonna make some tweaks. Come back class 3, how's it going? And a lot of it's just like right now I just told you, whenever you see her stand up, just automatically pull up, right?
Yeah.
Is I'm giving you directions, and we see what does this accomplish,
Yeah.
okay? And you practice that for a week, and then you come back and you provide me the info, and then we make adjustments, okay? So in the 3rd class, if everything's going great and you're like, hey, Jessie, like her reactivity is getting much, much better, and I can stop it right away, or she's not even doing it, or it's very infrequent, then I go, awesome, keep doing what we're doing, and we'll kind of nitpick at it over time. And then we just jump into recall for class 3, because recall tends to take people the longest to teach. So I try to teach that to you as quickly as possible. Recall is another 2 classes. And then we have like stationary control, which is go here and don't move, which is for like the restaurant stuff. And then it just comes down to how much control do you want, okay? So I have 6, 9, and 12-week programs. The 6th week, and we got a dog right here, just so you're aware. The 6th class program is, so if she were to lunge and bark, what I'm gonna have you do is you'll just pivot immediately to your right, so that you're not in her jumping range. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
Very good though.
so 6, 9, and 12. 6 is like bare bones. Okay, you've told me what you want to do, which is address the reactivity. Resource guarding is its own thing, okay? So it's 2 classes on heel, 2 classes on recall, and that leaves roughly 2 classes to deal with the behavior and or teach stationary control, okay? The 9 class course, so think of 6 classes, I walk my dog, I go to the park. 9 classes, I walk my dog, go to the park, go to the restaurant. 12 classes is I do that, plus I wanna go hiking, plus I'm gonna go to my friend's house. I'm gonna do everything with my dog. Okay, so that's the full control.
Yeah, that's probably what I want.
Up on your leash, up. There you go, good. Is 12-week is the full control.
Okay. And it's once a week?
Once a week for an hour, okay?
And do you do in home yet?
So I am doing in home.
Okay.
So COVID, right?
Yeah.
I was strictly in home before.
Okay.
And then COVID happened, and everybody was like, well, I don't want you coming into the house now, right? So then we started training here.
Yeah.
Up.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. And then relax.
Very good.
Good. because I saw her go like that.
Yeah,
So then up. So then up, and then relax. Good.
Very good.
I am doing in-home, but it's at a higher rate now
Okay.
because everybody travels to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been like, when COVID happened, we started training here because as you can see, there's tons of stuff to work with.
Yeah, that's true.
And this is not even the busiest that Oz is.
Yeah.
Oz gets busier.
It actually probably is better to do it here now that I think about it. But although with the dogs, I'm nervous. So I moved May 16th into my new place. I guess I don't know how to like integrate her in there. I'm sure she'll be fine, but once she realizes it's her new territory, I just don't know what to expect.
So we'd have a couple of choices. One, again, I do the in-home myself. It's just at a higher rate now.
Okay.
Or I send my trainer, Enrique. He's been training with me for like just over a year now, and he's been taking on his own clients.
Okay.
So what would happen is, you know, you'd already started training, and then you're like, hey, can you help me transition to my new home?
Yeah.
I send Enrique. And it's not additional cost. That's his time. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't, so for me, my in-home is $275 versus in-person here is like $175.
Got it. Okay.
But for Enrique, he shows up and does a class with you, but you're not paying $275, it's just a $175, but he's coming to you, okay? So, it's funny because she's like staring at that squirrel, like just taking the treat. So yeah, so that's not a problem. He's done that for a number of people. We have a couple of other reactive cases, and they were having like a couple of issues with just like in-home stuff.
Yeah.
So then I sent him, and he helped them fix the problem in their neighborhood.
Got
Okay,
it.
so, but yeah, we train here, and this gets super busy, so it's lots of stuff to work
Yeah,
with.
good.
Now, when it comes to redirection, okay, my suggestion to you, if that is a concern, because the other thing is, when she gets that intense, there's a possibility that as you go to correct or use pressure to stop her, we're going to escalate her in the beginning until she learns to de-escalate. That's where I would anticipate redirection. Okay, my advice to you is muzzle condition. Okay.
Yeah, I've got her to kind of put it on, and once we start walking, she'll just start taking it
Pawing
off.
at it.
Yeah.
Do you give her treats to put the muzzle on?
Yeah.
What I would do is it a basket or a mesh?
Mesh.
It's mesh. You'll want a basket style.
Okay.
They're like 15, 25-ish bucks. You go on Amazon, the brand is Baskerville. And then Maria will send you this info. Just ask her to send you the muzzle info. But it's Baskerville, and it's a basket style muzzle. It's meant for extended wear. Okay, so she can pant, open her mouth, eat and drink water. But what we do is it's the muzzle, and you take a Ziploc bag, you push it into the muzzle, and move the outsides so that up. Wait a moment. Careful. And then relax a little bit. There you go. Now up again. Right. Up. Good. Up. Yep. Just hold right there. Now relax.
Good.
Good. Is with the Baskerville. It allows you to put that Ziploc bag in there, and I would feed her meals from the muzzle. Okay. Now, take into account if she doesn't eat from the muzzle, she doesn't eat. Okay, so we have to incentivize her. So what I do is I remove all treats, all the extra stuff, and it's strictly her kibble, and she has to get used to eating from the muzzle. So it's gonna make her wanna put her face in there because she's like, this is the only time I get my food. Okay, but if she's getting treats and food elsewhere, she has no incentive to eat from the muzzle. Okay, so it's a very black and white method of muzzle conditioning. But people tend to have a hard time with it because they feel bad because their dog's not eating. You know, so like I had a dog that I had to muzzle train for a client. They couldn't get the dog to put the muzzle on, and when he came to us for a 4-week boarding train, he didn't eat for like the first 2 to 3 days. But then eventually he's like, I'm hungry, and the only time that food comes out was when the muzzle comes out. And then the owner was like, oh crap, I never, committed to it, and then now here's my dog, and now the dog wears the muzzle, no problem. Okay, but you have to be willing to do that, otherwise you're gonna get stuck. Because this here, the treats, this is extra. It's like candy to kids. We don't need the candy to survive. Yep, up on your leash. We need food, we need nutrition, chicken, vegetables, all that stuff, right? So same thing for her. And we can provide you with that information. Up. So when you do your training in the beginning, you'd have her muzzled up. There's also force conditioning, which is we use the e-collar to get her to stop clawing at the muzzle. But I always tell people, always positive condition first. It makes life easier. but it's almost inevitable. As soon as we put her in a stressful situation, she's going to fight the muzzle. So, but the e-collar can teach her to not fight the muzzle. But the problem that we might come across is because she's clawing at her face, she might cut her face up, okay? They heal up, the fur grows back, no problem. But again, it's how people feel about the exercise, okay? So my suggestion, as soon as you get your muzzle, start muzzle conditioning, okay? Because once you get started, it'll just make life a lot easier, okay? So when it comes to the e-collar, the reason why I opt for this tool is because, in my opinion, it's the most effective, it's the most efficient, it's the most versatile tool there is. I get on and off leash control right off the bat, okay? When it comes to behavior, with the prong collar, let's say you were correcting her, if your correction is not firm enough or strong enough, she's gonna continue to react, okay? With the e-collar, physical strength is not a part of the equation, okay? Because it's simply what number do you need, or what level of intensity do you need to dissuade you from the behavior that you're doing, okay? So aversives are meant to deter things. So like for us, if you run a red light, you get a ticket and you get a fine, right? That ticket is meant to deter you from running a red light again. Does that make sense? But for dogs, they don't have the financial component of like, oh, like, crap, there's $100 that I could have spent on, you know, food or whatever, right? So for her, dogs are all about physical consequence. So if she did something that another dog did not like, they would just bite her and tell her, don't do that again, right? So the e-collar allows you to technically bite her at the press of a button, okay? So first thing we do, of course, is the heel, because it teaches her how it turns on and how it turns off, okay? She has to understand the conversation with e-collar so that when we start applying it to correct reactivity if needed, she has a concept of why it's happening, okay? And then she goes, oh, this thing is going off, and when I stop barking, it goes away. So then she learns, oh, you mean if I don't bark at this dog, nothing happens? And it's like, yeah, nothing happens, okay? And you can pair it with food. I have no problem pairing food with the e-collar. The issue is that most people don't have the technical skills to handle all these things at once. So I know that with e-collar alone, what I can achieve, and then if the owner is good enough, then we start to implement like other things like food and stuff if needed, okay? But I've trained most of my clientele, like 98% of them, train strictly with remote collar without any food, okay? And if we do use it, it's because like the dog I just came from right now is a pit bull, reactive, it was a first class, super, super sensitive to the e-collar, okay? So I told him, we're gonna see how she does for the first week. If it doesn't get better, we're gonna start pairing food with it to help her get over the pressure of the e-collar, okay? But she's like one in a handful of dogs that I might get a year that would need that, okay? Questions about any of this so far?
No.
Is it making sense?
Yeah.
Have you seen any of our videos?
Yeah.
Training videos and stuff? Yeah. So it's pretty straightforward. It also allows me, e-collar allows me to to help people train their dogs without having to touch the dog, okay? I coach you through everything. So you're learning everything from ground zero, okay? So you're building your skills, because I already know how to handle a dog like this. I already know how to train a dog like this. I don't need to learn more, right? So for you, you're learning all this stuff yourself, so you're developing your skills, because she's not gonna be perfect, right? You could have no reactivity for 6 months, and then one day she has a terrible day and she's being reactive, but you're not worried about it because you know how to shut it down, okay? But if she were to become habitually reactive again, then something's wrong, okay? But you know, we have our bad days, dog have bad days as well. But now you'll have the tool set and the methodology and the understanding of how do I get control back, okay? Does that make sense? Because I think a lot of people think, oh, you're gonna train the dog to be a good dog, and then my dog's gonna decide to be a good dog. And I go, that's not how it works. Dogs don't make decisions like that. She doesn't, you know, wake up going like, I'm gonna make mom's life a living hell by being reactive, you know? And she's not gonna one day wake up and think like, oh, mom, I've put mom through so much torment with my reactivity, I'm gonna behave myself now. Okay, dogs don't do that. So you wanna use every opportunity to teach her what you don't want her to do. Yep, up, and then relax. So that we kick those habits, okay? Questions about any of that stuff?
Makes sense.
The collar that you would need is meant for, how much does she weigh?
About
50? So I would recommend you get the Dog Trail Black Edition. It's meant for 70 pounds and over. It's perfectly fine to use. I could use it on my Chihuahua. He's 8 pounds. The reason why I suggest that is because she's a good solid dog.
Yeah, she's strong.
But when dogs become reactive, you have to account for that they're under stress, her adrenaline levels might be up or anything like that, is that you might need more to cut through that, okay? So by getting the higher powered collar, I'm not worried about, well, what happens if she like hits 100, like you said earlier, because dogs can override the collar, okay? Where they're so far gone that the collar, you'll see the neck twitching, but they're just going, okay? I have a dog like that right now, but he's crazy, crazy human reactive, okay? But finally, like yesterday, it took us like 30 seconds to like a minute of maxed out before he finally stopped lunging at me, okay? But it took a bit. So, and these are super rare case. So in most cases, with having the higher output, all that means is your number is gonna be lower, okay? So on the lower powered collar, you might need like 60, but on the higher powered collar, you're gonna be like a 30. So it gives you more to work with less power, okay? It runs about 325-ish, I believe, with tax. And they last for a long time. I've had mine for like 8 years, no issues. It's a 1 mile range, fully waterproof system. Okay, so both the receiver and the transmitter are fully waterproof. So she could go swimming in the pond. You could be swimming in the lake with the remote. It's perfectly fine, okay? We may potentially pair it together with the prong collar to give you the most leverage in the beginning. So like if you turn the corner and there's a dog, there's gonna be a delay, right? So the prong collar allows you to immediately get her under control physically, but then the e-collar allows you to de-escalate her quickly, okay? And then it's all personal preference. You might come to a point where you're like, hey, Jesse, she's great. I don't need the prong collar anymore. And they go, all right, you don't need the prong collar. Or just for your own kind of peace of mind, you might find like, hey, with the prong and e-collar, man, this is the greatest combination. I feel like I have the most control and I don't have to do very much. Then that's your setup, okay? So I had a lady, she was like maybe like this tall. She was like 90, 100 pounds and 150 pound Great Dane. And he was dog reactive and she lived in Wicker Park. So she would turn the corner dogs and he would drag her down the sidewalk. So she did prong and e-collar, but that was permanent for her because things could happen so quickly that she knew she had the immediate control. So the prong collar allowed her to up. Good. Then relax, good. The prong collar allowed her to regain control while the e-collar shut the dog down. Okay? Questions?
Do I have to do both?
The prong and e-collar?
Yeah.
I mean, because you're not going to use the harness anymore.
Right.
Okay? Because the harness is going to create more activity. So if you use e-collar and harness, you're going to get conflicting messages. Because harness says be reactive, e-collar says don't be reactive. Okay? So we'd most likely have to switch to her flat collar, which if we do that, I wouldn't use a snap buckle because those things can break. Okay? I would use a regular flat buckle, which is like a belt buckle type collar. The e-collar comes with a belt buckle type flat buckle, so it's that style, but you can't clip the leash to the e-collar because it'll shift it around and it'll inhibit contact, okay? So my advice is in the beginning is you just take it, use both, okay? Once you get to the point where you feel confident, then you can remove the prong collar, okay? Because trust me, she's low to the ground, she's stocky, she'll be able to pull you or knock you down with her pulling force, because with the flat collar, it goes to the base of the neck and she goes like this, and that's where all her pulling power is, okay? So the prong and e-collar combination isn't bad. It's not like, you know, people are like, oh, but my dog has so much. I'm like, I get it. But it's for your benefit in the beginning, so you have less to worry about. Because once you move in May, right, the setup's going to change and stuff. So you might use it in the beginning, then you don't need it. But then when you move in May, you might incorporate it back in again because you have more of an unknown environment. And then once you feel like you've got it down packed, then you can remove it again, okay? At the end of the day, I always tell people, your dog, your rules. But I've worked with pitties like her before. They're little powerhouses.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so I had a lady that I had met her here, and when I showed up, she was picking herself off the ground, because her dog became reactive and she slipped on the dirt, and she had like all this was a black eye. Yeah. So it's better to. I'm more of like rather have it not need it than the need it not have it mentality. Okay. Other questions?
No.
So Maria would get in contact with you. 6, 9, or 12, right? 6 is bare bones. 9 is, I know you said like you want the full control, but just so you're aware, 6 is like, if you're gonna do a minimum of classes, 6 is what I recommend. 9 gives you more time in case for whatever reason the reactivity isn't as straightforward as I hope it to be. You have more time to work on it. And with 12 classes, we obviously have plenty of time to work on it. How far we get along in the training depends on her behavior. Okay, so for whatever reason, if her reactivity is more difficult than anticipated, we might spend a couple classes on that. So by the time we hit the class 12, we may not be as far along in the obedience, but you'll have the behavior and the control. You can always add on classes, okay? But some people, a lot of people actually, even if we spend more time on the obedience, by the time they hit on the behavior, by the time we hit the 12th class, they'll be like, man, Jesse, this is great. Like, I didn't think I'd get this far. I'm happy with this. And I go, then great. You know, keep practicing. Good luck. If you need anything, let me know. And other people go like, no, like I want to learn. I want to make sure I get these last 2 things in. I go, sure. Then Maria just invoices for 2 classes, and we finish the last 2 things or whatever that we need to learn. Okay. Other questions?
No.
So if anything pops up, you let us know.
Yeah.
Talk to Maria. If you know what you want to do, you could just turn around and email her and say, Maria, 12 classes. Let me know what color I need, and she'll get you right in queue. Otherwise, when I get home today, I'm going to email her, kind of update her on everything and what I suggested, and she'll get in contact with you. We do have or have had a large number of training consultations, because I think you emailed us a couple weeks back, right?
Yeah.
So I have clients or people that I did consults with like in January that are just barely starting now because my schedule is so busy. And in terms of availability, it just is determined by what your availability is. So evenings and weekends, I'm usually busiest because that's where most people are off, right? So Maria will figure all that stuff out. But if you want to get yourself right in queue to like start getting booked, then you can just email her and say, Maria, sign me up for 12 classes. I'm good to go. Let me know what else I need. And then she'll get you the rest of the information. Okay? Otherwise, nothing that I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
Pretty standard stuff. And then, if you want to learn more, a good dog to watch is actually Doug. He just started with me like 2 or 3 weeks ago. He just had his 3rd class. And he's the one I was saying that was human reactive and kept trying to go after me. It gives you an idea of how the exercise works, okay? Otherwise, if you're good to go, just let Maria know and she'll take care of you.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, anything else, you let us know.
All
okay?
right.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Take care.